Hello.
Okay, we're starting now, so your YOLO's failed really bad. Alright, this is what me and Cardinal are gonna be teaching you today. We're just gonna go through the process of making this, and I'll give out the resources so you guys can create this yourself. And Cardinal found these resources, and he's happy and obliged to give these to you, right, Cardinal?
No, you made me.
Okay, whatever. Um, yeah, so we'll just start off from scratch. I'll hide all the other layers. Um, so I took, or well, Cardinal took a stock
Yeah.
photo and he placed it in and he blurred it using filter blur. And you can use whichever blur you want. Now,
I
for
for me,
this,
I use the Gaussian blur
yeah, Gaussian blur
because
usually works
just keep
best.
on clicking on blurs sort of time consuming. So
Yeah, or you
that's
can,
what I used.
yeah, or you can use blur more. Now, Gaussian
Yeah,
blur,
it's fine.
Gaussian blur is much easier because
Gaussian blur, you can see how
change.
much you want to blur it and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you a scale, so
All right,
it's
and
really useful.
this, this is where it started from, and this is what it turned into. Um, alright. And just so you know, the size of this is 400
Yeah.
is 400 by 150. Okay. Now, so the next thing he did was placed in the render. Now, placement of render is really important. Don't always center your render, but leave it off to one side and have it really really prominent and have it show a lot.
What
Don't
I
don't yeah,
Yeah.
okay, go.
Okay. What I did was I placed it in the middle because of the cape to the right, and then I thought that if I placed it right there on the left side, you'd be able to put some text right there. On the other side
Yeah,
was
that's a good plan.
effects and stuff.
Nice. So what he did was he he took into consideration that this cape is going to be taking up a lot of the right side. So the left side would be a great place for the text and some other effects. So always think about that when you're looking at your render from right from the beginning. But you don't always have to. You can always experiment and stuff. Um, okay. Now the next thing he did was he placed in the C4D. Um, Now, he put it in the back, first of all, to create depth and like make the render stand out more. Now, obviously there's going to be stuff on top of the render as well, but it's always good to have more stuff at the back and then have just a bit on top and make sure like your render is always more like of the focal and nothing else is really taking away all the attention. Do you want to add anything to that?
Also, try to keep the colors together. I recolored the mask and made it purple, and as you see, that purple CFD and I darkened it so that it wouldn't take too much attention away from the vocal point.
Yeah, this is the C4D he used.
But I recolored it.
Yeah, this one. And he recolored it to purple. And to do that, you can just... whoops. Okay, so you can take it and then you go down here to the circle with
Yeah.
black and white, and then you can do hue and saturation, and then right click the hue and saturation layer, create clipping mask, and it'll clip just this hue and saturation adjustment to that 1C4D, and then you can click colorize and you can see how the color changed. You can play around with the colors to to get what you want and make sure like the color flows with everything else, you know?
Or you can unclick colorize and just use the regular one.
Yeah, or you can do that too. Yeah, but we're just going to delete that because we already have what we wanted. Okay, now he added another C4D right in the back, and there was one right on top of it. So you see how it creates the effect that he's there, but he's not on top of everything, and there's something above him.
Hide that layer and rehide it. What I did was right above his ear, I made it to where the C4D goes behind it, behind his head. So I erased a little.
Right.
No, and now go to the other one. Yeah. See how it goes
See this
behind him?
one part right here? Okay. Right. Now, moving on to the next layer. Layer 3. Now, he added another C4D, and this time he placed it just over the render, but not so it takes up any of the focal away, and it just adds a bit of effect, and it's right there. Now, make sure that the focal is always prominent, as I've been saying. Um, right. Then he added the same thing right behind the layer this time. Or, sorry, right behind the render this time. Moving on to the next thing. He used the same C4D and placed it to the back.
Behind the render.
Behind the render, yep.
This time I placed it behind the render. And I used the white from the mask.
Right. Again, colors should match. 4. Moving on to the next one. 5. Now he used a splatter brush.
Move it out so they can see it.
Right, okay. I'll just a splatter brush. Now you can download splatter brushes from DeviantArt or wherever. These are smudge brushes. What am I doing? Yeah. So just use whatever you want or whatever you think will fit well. And to create the clipping mask, just do the same thing as the adjustment layer. Now, I do that, and then I would take whatever I have right now. Let me just turn all these layers back on. 4, 5, 3, 2, and then the render. Yep. It's right here. So over here is what I just did, right? Now I would just make a new layer above everything else, or above whatever you have, and image, apply image, and what that will do is just merge everything you have into one layer, but it won't actually take all the other layers away. And then once you do that, you bring it right on top of your splatter, and then you right click, create clipping mask, and it will just put that over what you have. So see how if I move my applied image, it will give me the rest, give me whatever I had, like whatever I have, and it will put it right into the splatter. And if I move it around, it will give me like a bit of effects and wherever else. You can play around with that. Okay, and I'll just delete this because just go back. Okay. And he added another splatter. Now this is also behind the render, or yeah, behind the render, but it still shows. Okay. 5. And there's a splatter that's on top of the render. Now these are all just copied pasted, so you can do that, or you can create a different splatter for every layer that you want to do. Or
you guys don't have to use as many splatters and C4Ds as I use.
Yep.
If it starts to look a little bit cluttered, then you can go with your own flow. You don't have to copy this tutorial exactly.
Yep.
You could take from this and learn things from it and use it in your own type of way.
Yeah, like the clipping masks and the adjustments, and placing the C4Ds behind it and above the render, and all these little techniques. Okay, now he went ahead and started off with the text, but I usually do the text like right at the end. Now what he did with this text was he created the text and then he duplicated it.
The text is, by the way, Mulan. That text is Mulan.
Yeah, the text is called Mulan. Now, I'll put all this in the description and whatnot. Um, Now he duplicated it and then moved it slightly over. So I'll just redo this. Take out. So I have my text and I'll duplicate it by pressing Control J or right click the layer and duplicate layer and rasterize the copy if you want to. It's not very necessary. And just move it slightly over and change it to black or whatever drop shadow color you want to use. You can either do that or you can right click and use blending options and do gradient overlays and drop shadows, but that's all optional. This is what he did, so this is what I'm showing you. And
what I had did is oh wait, which part are you at?
I just duplicated the layer, right? And
Yeah.
I'll select the text.
And then make it black. And then move it down a bit.
I can't use it right now because I don't have the font, but yeah, just make it black and move it down slightly so it creates like
a drop shadow.
Yeah, it creates like a drop shadow effect. Yeah. See, it's very slight and subtle, but it creates a very nice effect. Or yeah, okay. Now what he also did was he created a gradient and he used that as a clipping mask on top of the font. See, notice how the colors are matching and the colors flow together. Make sure that's that's always important. And then he added more text and another clipping mask. He used the gradient again. Moving on to the next layer.
By the way, I accidentally spelled that wrong.
Yeah, so just ignore that.
I can't spell.
Yeah, okay. So another drop shadow on this.
Yeah, what I did was I just practically did what I did with the other step. Just repeat this step and make it smaller and put it above, sort of above it, and move it over a little.
Yep. So duplicate, turn it into black, and just move it down slightly so it creates a drop shadow type effect. But it's not really a drop shadow, it's more of like a little like permanent black outline type thing, but yeah. Okay, moving on to the next layer. I should unhide some of these layers that I forgot to.
I then added a few more splatters.
Yep. There's just experiment with splatters and see what's working well and what's not. And remember, what's looking really bad now will not always look really bad at the end, So keep experimenting and keep trying different things.
Yeah, it's always good to experiment and try different things and not keep using the same things. As you guys can see, seeing as my signatures are like always changing, I'm always trying to find new things to do.
Yep.
You guys should always try to experiment and find new styles and spectate other people's sticks and what's not.
Yep. Now he used a fractal and he placed it on top and set it to screen. This is the fractal that was used. Oh, not this one.
Over there, A.
Okay, yeah. This is the fractal that was used. Now he used just a bit.
I then recolored it.
Yep.
As we said earlier in the tutorial, how to recolor, and we recolored it purple.
Yeah. Now make sure colors flow. Okay. Now he did the same thing. He duplicated the fractal and erased a bit and added a nice light source down here. Now to add a light source.
No, just go to the thing. There's a light source in that fractal, is what I used.
Oh, okay. So he probably just he took it and then he just moved it. See, there's the light source. So he just moved that down here. I'll just move that. Okay. And there's always erasing. Erase parts that you do not like or you do not think that just are not working. Erase. Remember to erase.
Try not to make it too bright, by
Yep.
the way.
Yeah. Don't go overboard with the brightness.
Try to make it settle.
Subtle and like make it look realistic in a sense. Right.
Yeah.
The next thing, duplicate it again. Moved moved it around. See what was working. Um, and erase some parts right over the render to create a bit of depth and create like a little nice darkness around the render and make it more you know prominent and whatnot. Now and then he duplicated it again and he moved it around so there's a nice light source over his head too. There's one underneath him and there's one over his head. Now this all depends on the style of sig you're doing and the way your render is set up. Look at the shadows on your render and make your light sources, you know, sort of similar to them, similar to your render, or very similar. Yep. Now he added a border to see what his limits were in the signature. So if you want to do that first, that's fine too. To make a border, just use the rectangle marquee tool and make a rectangle marquee or a rectangle selection and move it to your liking. Now, the outsides is what the borders will be, so just leave a bit of space on the outsides. Right click the selection, stroke, and stroke the outside, and just set it to a nice, like, a width that will just take up all the space that you have. And the color is usually black. A black border is almost always best. But you can always see what you like better. Play around. Okay, the next thing is he took the fractal and set it to screen, and this time he got a lot of just these bubbles that were in the fractal, and he took these and remember recoloring and make them flow with your tag. Don't don't have like a random like red fractal over a completely yellow, or yellow or a purple like this tag. So if these fractals were red, they would not look good at all on this. So make them flow. So now the next thing.
Yeah, don't go overboard with the fractals like I did. I sort of like used like a little bit too much of them, but I mean,
But
sometimes it looks fine, but sometimes it doesn't.
yeah, now he created this little flare on the eye. To do this,
Try not to put the fractals over the render too. The bubble C4Ds. Try not to do that.
yeah, don't try not to put the light effect fractals on top of renders because it takes away a lot of the detail from the render and it kind of distracts from the main point. Even though the render is the main point, the C4 or the fractal is just gonna really distract the viewer from what you're supposed to be looking at, and it clutters up your signature kind of. The next thing he did was he created this little flare on top of the eye. Now to do that, you can just use a regular brush. Reset. Use a regular brush. Soft brush is fine too.
Go back. What I used was that 42 brush
42.
down there. Yeah,
Hold up.
that's what I used. But you
All right. So now, what'd you use again
for what?
for the
I used the 42 brush.
42 brush? Which one?
It says 4200.
I don't think any
The
of
one
them.
to the bottom right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So, use this brush right here. 42. Now, you can either zoom in or whatnot, but take it and then erase. Remember to erase. Make it a bit smaller if it's not working. And then just... And now you can smudge these little flowy lines, you know. Take it. For smudging, just use a hard brush or a soft brush. Doesn't matter. Um, no brush settings, no presets. We don't need those. Turn smoothing on. Um, yeah, just, you know, make it flow. Yep, just drag it out, make it flow. Quite simple. You know, his was more perfect-ish. Whatever. Um, I kind of made your sig better. Whatever. Okay.
Oh wow. Oh, thanks.
And he just did the same thing on the other eye. Okay, the next layer. Now he added a bit of light effects. So, did you use fractals for this, or did you use soft brushes?
No, all you do is gotta create a new layer, set it to screen, and use the soft brush with any
Yep.
color.
Send it to screen, set it to screen, and then use. Usually,
Yeah.
white is good for, you know, subtle, light sources and light effects. Use a soft brush, so, and just, you know, but not that bright. Small and subtle. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Now, darken up a bit of the sides. Use a soft brush, turn to black. Just a bit, you know, on both sides. A click there and a click there. Just darken it up, bringing more attention to like the middle where the focal is, where the render is. Uh, Next thing.
Full.
I'm saying focal a lot. Um, what'd you do here? You just another light and just set it
Oh,
to
I
overlay.
I use the soft brush and just put it all over the render and put it
Set
on overlay and set it
to
really
20.
low, just to lighten it up.
Yeah, just lightens it up a little bit. Set it to 20% opacity overlay. It'll just lighten up your render a bit. You can do this to anything else that you wanna, you know, make a bit more brighter and light it up, or lighter, whatever. 21. Okay. And then the next thing, I skipped a couple things. That's where these things popped up. But the next thing, these I don't really. Okay. I go down. I'll just come back to these because I skipped them. So this was pretty simple. Now all you do is you take your rectangle marquee tool and you make a black box right here, or you make a box, use the paint bucket tool, put it to black. You can't see it right now because it's under everything, so I'll just put it on top, set it to
Press
black.
Control D to get rid of the lines.
Control
Control D.
Control D, getting rid of the lines, and then use the marquee tool again and just delete little small black lines, like these little black lines right here, and you can just move the marquee selection over and delete again, and then Control D to erase,
And there you have your clip mask. And then you wanna
and then
copy the render, put it
or
over it, and create a clipping mask, and
yep,
then move it to your liking.
pretty much. So I'll just do that real quick right here. I'll just Control J to duplicate the render, and then right click, create clipping mask, and I'll just move that over so you guys can see it easy. Did I pick up the wrong layer? I think I did. Derp. Okay. Okay. I'll take that, and then, you know, it puts the render right into the... Now you can do whatever, you move it around, move it to your liking, and do all that. The good stuff. Just go back until... okay. Now, and he did the same thing for this little... the thing under the text, it's pretty much just a rectangle marquee tool, fill it in with black, and take a part of your signature or take your render and clip mask it on top of the box, and it'll create a nice effect there, and you can put it around your text or put it to the side like over here. Next is now just a bit of erasing and fixing things up.
Yeah, you could do that by going to make a new layer, image, and then apply image.
Apply image. That will just take everything like you've done in clipping masks. It'll just take everything, set it to one layer, and then in that layer you can play around with the lighting and stuff, and turn down the opacity if you like and whatnot, and you know, change around a few things. And then
Yep.
the next thing was you put a gradient map over it. Now you can do gradient maps that match the color of your tag, or you can do gradient maps that are black and white. Those also work. Now gradient maps, usually you want to change their blending mode. So for the first gradient map, he did a white to purple, which is in his signature, and he changed it to color to bring out the purples and the whites. And then next, he used a purple to black, which will
Purple to black.
Yep, purple to black, and it'll change up, or sorry, it'll darken up the blacks, and it'll bring up the purple a bit.
I couldn't hear you for a second. Your voice went
Oh, okay.
nothing.
I hope that doesn't... Oh, whatever. And he changed that to color. And then the next thing was the black to white, and set it to luminosity. Now this will bring up the whites, turn down the blacks a bit, and give you a nice, like, a very soft and subtle...
What it does is it brings out the light and it darkens the dark.
Yeah, it just turns the
Pretty
tag...
much.
Turns the tag a bit into a bit soft mood or something like that. It's a good effect. And then just
Then you want to make a new layer and apply the image again.
apply the image, and just so you have everything in one layer. And then a bit of darkening on the sides again, and just some blurs. You can see
Yeah,
that.
I didn't darken anything. I just I duplicated a layer again and then blurred it and then
Erased.
Erased everything in the middle. Pretty
Alright.
much.
And then did that again.
Yep.
Just to make the blur a bit more.
And then, yeah.
Okay. And then just another applied image, and then there's some topaz done here. You can tell. I can tell. Just a slight topaz. Now topaz filters are pretty good, but I wouldn't recommend them. I would, but
Oh wait, what is this?
this you just
Yeah.
applied the image again, and then
Yeah, you
and then
you need to
sharpened it.
topaz it.
You can topaz it, and then some topaz and some sharpening. Now just filter, sharpen, and turn down the opacity. Filter, sharpen, Sharpen, sharpen.
Sharpen, when you sharpen, always turn the opacity down to
Yeah,
like 30 or 25. Don't
yeah,
keep it
cause
too high or else it'll look
if you,
burned out or something.
yeah, see, it's very faded and or not faded, just very um edgy and really dark. And just if you turn down the opacity, it'll look smooth, but it will still show most of the detail. Turn it to about 30%, which is usually good. And that's pretty much it. That's your signature. I hope I covered mostly everything. If I didn't, I'm sorry. You know, I'm not very good at tutorials, I guess. Even though I'll still be making more of these.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're probably gonna make a few more of
yeah,
these with different types. Probably a simpler version.
yeah, something more simpler next time because these were a lot and I explained a way too much and kept babbling on. But I hope you guys liked it. This was me and Cardinal, Narado, and GodCardinal. Do you want to say anything?
You can also find this video in my shop in art and media called AirGFX.
Yep, ogplanet.com or N forum, whatever. OG Planet forums, Rumble Fighter, and Kit on YouTube. And yep, that's about it. Have a good one.